Hit the lights!
You've discovered the Halfwatt podcast. We want to educate and entertain by tapping into the most trusted source of new technology, the ones installing and innovating it. You, the tradespeople that build from the ground up. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, veteran contractors, and even some young blood.
Welcome aboard. Today, both, is a returning champion, Colton Reyes. Colton, how you doing? Nice. So you moved to a state that you swear exists called Oklahoma. And you're not lying to me that this is a real place, right?
Yeah, it's not a lie. It's a real place.
Prove it. I don't believe you.
It's north of Texas.
Don't get me started on Texas, brother. Don't get me started on Texas. Let's talk about their power grid. No, let's not. So tell me, you've left Oregon, you've left teaching in IEC, you've gone to a new adventure down there in Tornado Alley. How's it going? I mean, tell me what's going on. What's happening in your life?
Oh, well, I mean, it's definitely been an adventure. It's been a shock, coming to a state where I had to, unlearn codes.
What?
Because they were so far behind on the code adoption.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So what revision are they working on, or what year?
So when I first got here, September of 22, they were still working off of the 2014 NEC.
Okay. This is better than CMS, which is the federal standard, which is working on 2010 or 11, depends on which code you're on. So I'm a little happier. So 2014 is decidedly not 2020 anything.
Yes, but the end of last year, it was around, I think it was December, is when they announced that they were going to skip a bunch of code books, and they went to 2019.
Okay, good. Well, so now they're up to code. I mean, honestly, that's a good jump.
Yeah, and that's just Oklahoma City.
That's just Oklahoma City.
Yep,
which is
all
a
the
place
rest of
in
the counties
Oklahoma.
and cities.
This fictional place you live in, Oklahoma City, is in that fictional place. Okay.
Yes.
Now I got it.
OKC.
Okay. See. So what is the result, or what happens in a state where they don't have current codes and they're adopting new stuff? Like tell me your experiences there and how you had to unlearn how to do stuff.
Well, so it's not really per se unlearning things. It's just knowing that the things that I am used to doing is way above and beyond the bare minimum standard of the code requirements. So just making sure that I'm not going above and beyond, too far above and beyond what the company is willing to, pay the time for. Right?
Because you're bidding jobs based upon the older way to do stuff.
Yeah, so making sure that I'm not, all of a sudden adding a bunch of extra parts to a job that shouldn't be on the job or anything like that, even though, I'll ask, I'll go, hey, can we do this? Can we actually put in isolation modules and, split a building in half at least?
Can we help ourselves out here and be as advanced as the Northwest, please? Oh, please.
Right? So, I got on with Fire Troll.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you, but I get it.
Yep. So I got on with Fire Troll out here, and the really good thing is they were like, we know you come from Oregon. Mm-hmm. We know that they are above and beyond what is here, and we want that.
Okay.
So they were just like, hey, whatever you did up in Oregon, just work towards that here. Just do it.
Nice.
Just do it. We want high quality work. We want to make sure that we're meeting all of the requirements and standards, and in some cases planning for going above and beyond, because codes are going to be changing, right?
Right.
and they're going to be
and
adopted
eventually
here
they're
shortly.
going to be up to standards that we expect in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Yep. So did a project for them that was a decent sized project. Definitely not the biggest project I've ever been on, but for that company, it was a decent sized school project. It was for a technical school called Metro Tech. And doing that project was fantastic because I was able to throw my quality in it and
Nice.
Make sure that all of the stuff that needed to get done for the longevity of the system got done. So like labeling everything.
Oh, wow,
Every
yeah.
single detector was labeled. Every single notification device was labeled. Horn strobe, speaker strobe, whatever it was all identified by its circuit and device number in that circuit.
Nice.
So I made sure everything was up to par on that and had them add 2 isolation modules so we could split the SLC in half for the building.
Nice.
Since we were already having to split it anyways. And that way we've got that
was
isolation
it all like
there.
Class A or Class B, or did they specify?
It's all Class B.
It's all Class B.
It's all Class B, yeah. Some of the sites that they have are military grade specs for the requirement.
That's what I would
but
think. I would have
this
thought that. I mean, right off the top of my head, I thought, well, it's Tornado Alley, and it's, so there's a big disaster thing, and then but I just would have assumed they would have gone Class A, but I get it.
Yeah, no, there's no requirement for Class A. Okay. The military contracts that Fire Trawl has, they do Class A on those sites, right, because that's an Air Force base, Tinker Air Force Base or whatever. And they do it there when it's required, but it's still not always required. It's still pretty much a rarity on that kind of stuff, select installs. So but it's just been really nice being able to, have that freedom to, hey, we want you to go above and beyond and actually let you do it.
Nice. How are your apprentices up there working? I mean, how is it working with their group? Because they don't have the training. Like, do they have any licensing requirements other than just a journeyman license, or what does it take to jump through the hoops to become a low voltage electrician in limited energy electrician, I should say?
It definitely doesn't take much.
Really?
So there is a license, but it's an occupational license.
An occupational license. Where can I buy one of these? Does it come out of like a vending machine?
No, you still have to go to the government for it.
So, I mean, what is it? What is the requirement to be a licensed electrician or a limited energy electrician in Oklahoma?
You got to become a helper.
Okay.
So you got to become a licensed occupational helper for whatever system that you're going into. Actually, no, it's a generic helper license. Okay. So you can work on any of the stuff with a occupational licensed technician for those systems because it's system based.
Oh, really?
So it's not just like you have Class A or Class B like in Oregon. You have fire alarm, you have CCTV, you have intrusion, you have nurse call, all of that.
So were you able to prove competency in all those systems so that you can do them all, or what? Or are you now?
I was able to prove it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was able to prove it, but it doesn't correlate.
Really? So you're not pigeonholed into just doing fire or just into access control. I mean, or are you?
Well, so like my license doesn't correlate at all.
At all.
They don't even care. They're just like, oh, good for you. Take this test.
Huh.
So the bare minimum. So if you're an apprentice, you become a helper, and you got to do, I believe it's 9 months, or not 9 months, 3 months. So 90 days of work, and then you can go take your test.
And then once you pass the test, you're licensed to do that work.
Yeah, so it doesn't take long to be meeting the requirements to go take that test.
Wow. That's a short apprenticeship, my friend. Wow.
With very, 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 very short. I'm just like, wow.
Wow.
Okay. So, you run into journeymen who are like, yeah, I've been doing this for a year and I'm running jobs on fire alarm systems and I still don't know enough.
Okay, so give me your fair assessment of what you've run into when you do. Like, have you done service work down there, or is it just?
Yeah, so I'm currently in service with a different company. I'm now working with ADT Commercial, which is now Evron.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because they got bought out, and it's an official change was the beginning of this month. So
I know another.
I'm working service with them and primarily fire stuff, but the amount of quality of work is kind of like what you guys see up there on those older buildings, right? The ones that just really have not been touched yet.
Right.
That's kind of what the quality of work I'm running into, because there's a lot of old buildings out here, and they don't really force certain things to be updated. It's really weird.
Like
I don't know if I'm just not seeing the stuff in the times that it does happen, because like I'm either on new construction, which is what I was doing in fire trawl, or doing some remodel work. But the remodel work that they're doing, they've literally ripped everything out.
Huh.
So nothing's left. Period. Because they're doing a complete change.
Scratch.
Yeah. So they're doing a complete change. But then there's like the other buildings that usually don't get remodeled that I'm working on in service, and so they're just old. And there's cables everywhere. It's just rat's nests here and there, drape and rape. It's just laying everywhere.
I haven't heard that term. That's okay. So, in your assessment, if you could wave your magic wand and help structure stuff for Oklahoma, you would recommend a system similar to what we have up here in Oregon and Washington? And I'm not leaving Washington out. I want to include Washington because they've got
there's an Oregon are so similar, yeah. So I would, based on my experience with Oregon, of course. So I have a bias towards that structure, because it does get the results that the state's looking for. You get competent journeymen, and like fresh journeymen, you get competent ones at least 90% of the time, depending on the experiences they have going through the apprenticeship program. Because unfortunately, there are still some apprentices that only learn how to pull cable.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. But compared to here, where you've got apprentices that for 3 months are being taught only a select little bit of how to do things, and then they get their license, and the company, not all the time, I'm sure, but the company goes, all right, you're ready. Let's throw you to the wolves.
Wow.
And just get you out on a system, whichever system that is. So now you're installing intrusion systems of whatever manufacturer for that company without, another journeyman there, because the building's not big enough to require more than you and one helper. And now you're fresh journeyman or fresh, licensed technician training a helper. So
out of curiosity, is there a pretty strong union presence there? Is IBW present? And
I believe it is. I haven't really looked into it, but I run across union electricians, union technicians, and of course union other trades, plumbers, framers, all of that fun stuff. But I haven't really looked into to see how deep the union goes. But with oil rigging and everything and drilling out here, they're huge on union. Truckers unions out here, and everything. This is like the big crossroads of the United States for the highway system. So you've got trucks going everywhere. So I believe they've got a big presence out here.
Yeah, I would be curious to see what their apprenticeship, because I can't imagine their apprenticeship requirements are any less. But I could be wrong. I wouldn't know. I'd have to ask an IBW person. What are your requirements in the Plain States? What do you do there? Versus, and I really truly don't know, because I'm not in that union. So it's like, But I would imagine if IBW holds the same standard to their electricians there that they do here, there would be a pretty high standard. I mean, I can count on one hand the amount of union electricians that I wouldn't rehire. I mean, and I've worked with tons and tons and tons and thousands of them. So I mean, I've been pretty impressed. So it's like, I get the whole concept, but I would wonder in a state like that if they wouldn't, be ringing the bell, going, "Hey, we got to get our lobbyists in to see the politicians and see if they can do something." Because if they set the standard high and say, "Look, you have to have a minimum, 12-month apprenticeship or 13-month apprenticeship or something, besides 3," that just seems really short. I mean,
it really is short, because I was working with an apprentice at Fire Troll for, what was it, like 3 months, but he was my apprentice. And so I didn't trade him out with anybody else. I had gone through like 2 other apprentices that were younger guys, and they just didn't have the drive, right? They didn't really have any passion for it. I felt like they just hadn't found what they wanted, right? And this obviously ended up not being one of the things that they wanted to do, was work in our field. And they moved on, and I don't know where each of them moved on to, but my third one, he's same age as me, 34. He's got kids, he's got a family, he's looking to provide for his family. And I was like, you got into a great field, because this field's not going anywhere.
So that's a good point, because if you go through an apprenticeship program like our apprenticeship program here, you're spending 3 years in this before you can turn out. And so, I've had people drop because they said, like, this isn't me. I mean, this is just not, I don't want to learn what you're teaching, which I'm fine with. But then you're trying to put them out on a job, and so they're doing OJT essentially, and then going, yeah, this isn't for me. So I could see that the turnover rate would be high. But if someone does stick with you, and then you guys, like each other, then they can pick up quite a bit. So I would venture to guess, I mean, have you met a lot of folks like yourself where they've been in the industry from other states and have moved there, or just folks that are organically came up that became really good at it because they had passion for it, or what's been your your experience?
So far with the few people in the state that I've worked with, because I wouldn't say that I've worked with a lot of people in the state so far. But there's been like about 3 or 4 people that I've met that have come from other states to this state. One's come from Georgia and came to Oklahoma. The others, I think it was Kansas, so not very far.
Yeah, that's a pretty short drive. Yeah. Okay.
And Texas. So, and Texas apparently has a very similar setup as Oklahoma. From what I hear, I haven't looked into it to verify, but that's information that doesn't have any validity to it. But
well, all I know is that the fire marshal down there has arrest powers. Like if you leave a system down in Texas, they can, and you don't do the correct steps to inform everybody, they'll come and throw cuffs on you and throw you to jail. So I mean, they do take fire protection very serious. Almost all the states that deal with oil, petroleum products, have super high standards. Like Louisiana. I mean, Louisiana's got incredibly tough fire alarm standards, and suppression system standards because of all the refineries. So they don't mess around. Even in their food, like their kitchen hoods. Yeah, the nice restaurant in New Orleans, you don't keep you don't keep your stuff inspected. They shut the door just like that. No sweat. So it was just, I find it odd, and I tell my students that you're in probably one of the best programs there is, and the tougher, the more hoops you have to jump through to get the licensing, the less people there are to do it, and the more money you'll make eventually. And not that everything's about money, but it kind of leans that way. I mean, right now, journeymen up here are making incredible money up here, because the demand is here. Well, the demand is here because the licensing is tough to get. And if just because you have the licenses, you well know, I know people that have licenses that I couldn't install an intrusion system today. I mean, I could figure it out. I could muddle my way through it, but now I know a dozen people who are much better at it than I am, and I would say, well, that's this guy's gig. Let him do it. So we've all sort of kind of fallen into the different disciplines because there's enough work in all the areas to satisfy us. I think that's my theory on it anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But, with as much work as there is, everybody can kind of fall into their, 1 or 2 system niches.
Yeah. And
just really, delve into it and become a super, super knowledgeable technician in those disciplines, which is fantastic. And I think it's also a good thing because, we're not always going to be able to know everything about every single system.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, and I really can't, because I thought, hey, okay, I know a lot about fire, but then you go to work on the new equipment. Like in the simplex world, you work on a 4100 ES. That's not a 4100 plus, and it's not a 4100U. And even the newer ESs are not like the older ESs. There's already revisions and changes that you have to be aware of, and it's a different animal. It really is. It's a different animal. It's not a bad animal, but you can really deflate the bouncy house pretty quick if you don't know what the hell you're doing on one. So
yeah.
So overall, you've made this big life change, and you've worked for a couple companies in Oklahoma. You're happy. I mean, the state itself is providing you what you need. You've got a good family down there, and everything's going good. And that's, so personally, it sounds like you're in a good space.
Yeah.
And you're doing fire, which I know is a big critical thing for you, because you've got background in other systems, a lot of other systems. So tell the audience what other systems that you worked on, so that we just don't make this a fire conversation, because I'm sure all the non-fire people are going, man, this dude never shuts up about fire. What's up with him? I mean, come on, man.
Well, I've done basically fire and intrusion and CCTV and access control my entire career.
Okay.
It's been more heavy on the fire side than anything else, but
that's because you wanted it. You
yes.
wanted to go into it because you were a DSC guy, right? Or DMP? I'm sorry.
DMP. I'm DMP.
So you were a DMP guy,
that's
but
my
I
favorite
remember
intrusion system.
You wanted to go into fire pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on Notifier my entire career, basically, except for select companies that I worked for that they just didn't touch Notifier specifically. Mm-hmm. And then it's Little Brother, Firelight, and Silent Night, Potter, and then JCI worked on some Simplex, and then PSI worked on Simplex. And all of those systems. So, I mean, I've worked on a lot of them. I've done a little FCI or whatever too, but I've done a lot of Cantech for access control, which is a JCI product.
So Cantech is that a proprietary type product, or is it?
I would say it's dealer locked. Okay. Is the way I would do the terminology for that, because it's dealer locked. GCI owns it as a company, but it still has other companies that can install it. It's not like Simplex where it's completely locked.
Got it.
Behind as a proprietary system to JCI. So Cantech can be sold and installed and maintained by plenty of other companies as long as they're a dealer and certified.
Got it.
So same with like Linnell,
right.
Those bigger access control systems, which I've done some work on, never got to program it because it was with JCI, and I did it for Microsoft. So I was just the boots on the ground, hands in the panel and on the devices, and the programming was done by the certified programmers.
Got it.
So
Microsoft, that's that small little software startup, right?
Yeah, that small little one.
Little one we've never heard of before. So so why you taught integrated systems, integrated technologies, when you were here, and so tell everybody what that was about. What exactly did that? I mean, I could say integrated technology, but what did that mean?
So integrated systems, I was trying to create a class where we would work on two different systems, learning them kind of separately, and then learning about relay controls, control relays specifically, and all the possibilities that you can really do with those, from the simple, this is what a relay is, this is how it works internally, so you can understand that there is an input and an output, and then we're going to actually work with the different types of relays, and then have relays control relays, do something really complicated so that it's mind-boggling, and then figure out how to work it one step at a time to make it simpler and more easily understood.
Makes sense.
And then eventually, integrating the two systems. So we did access control and CCTV in that class, and we learned each of those systems separately, and then we learned how they can integrate together. at the very, very end. So it took my class a long time to really get to a certain point where we could start really doing that part of it, which was unfortunate because it came down to, money, of course, for the lab, because I am a true advocate for hands-on learning and making sure that, it's not just, homework based. You got to do all the reading and everything. And then we're going to do, worksheets in class, and I'm going to lecture at you for, 4 hours. So I tried to make my class as widespread for all the different, 3 major learning groups that are really drawn to this industry. And we did stuff in class. There was lecture. Yes, there was reading, homework, and everything. And we went over the answers, but I didn't just read out of a book. I didn't just read out of a book. So it was everybody read out of the book, get the basic concepts of the chapter, and then we go over all of the stuff in class. So, small lecture, and then it was 9 weeks out of the 12 weeks was a lab at the end of the day, end of the night. So there was always a lab. So it was, you teach it, you learn it in the class, we go over the book, the worksheets in the class, and we go and we actually do it.
Makes sense.
And get that hands-on experience.
It makes sense, yeah. So is there any opportunity for you to teach down there? I mean, I can see you got a fire panel, you got a firelight behind you.
I do. I have a desire to have time to create a YouTube channel to try to get going on, teaching some basics and troubleshooting and stuff. It's just been harder to find the time to do it than I anticipated. So,
and 2 kids will,
having 2 young ones makes it harder.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, but I've looked into even, trying to teach at a trade school on, stuff like that. And there's no availability really that I've been able to find for trying to find a source where I can teach.
I'm listening to you. I just got to answer this real quick. There isn't IEC down there? I mean, don't they have a setup like Oregon has? I don't understand.
Yeah, IEC is down here, but they're just inside electrical stuff.
So the IEC is down there, but they don't have any limited energy, like a division like we have up here.
Yeah, correct. The only thing that they have that's close to the apprenticeship program is there's just an employment agency called JTC. Not the JATC, but the JTC.
Okay.
The JTC. So it's an individual that runs basically a hiring program for people that want to get into the trades. So it's not just technicians for electrical low voltage. It's also for, being a pipe fitter for sprinklers.
So can you teach with them? I mean, are they offering you anything, or
there's no classes?
So there's just no one's offering anything.
It's just like an employment agency where they just find you all the different companies that are looking for workers. So the companies go to him and go, hey, I'm looking for a helper, right? Doesn't matter if they're green or not. I just need somebody who's interested in doing this field.
So is it because there's not a super strict requirement to get your license that is that why there's no? I mean, there's this doesn't exist because they don't have a need for it. There's no need to teach you something. I would speculate that that would probably be the legitimate answer for that is, with the information that I have, which is unfortunately very little, that would be the assumption I would have to make on that, is just since there's not really a requirement for too many hours in, the system, because it's just OJT hours, and it can be for whatever system that you want. You just have to be in the industry for 90 days. So this would be a good example in this podcast of why laws, wow, why laws and why the rules, and in the state of Oregon we have OARs and ORSs, Oregon Revised Statutes and Oregon Administrative Rules. Those set the framework up for why we need all the different licenses that we need, whether you're an LBME or a journeyman electrician or a guy who puts up signs or backflow tester, doesn't matter. and I know that people look at our state and go, well, you're overregulated, except that we're not. I mean, we regulate these things for a reason. Life safety is important for a reason. Berg is important for a reason. Access control is now everything. All the buildings in our campus pretty much are all access control at this point. So the for safety, I mean, look at the schools up here. All the schools are all access control, right? So we don't have some nutbag come running through the schools and shoot them up. So those are drivers that make the industry say, okay, here's the materials, and here's the need, and here's the laws. So here's the framework that sets that up. To me, this is an excellent example of a government that works for the people to do specific things. And I'm certainly not here to knock Oklahoma government. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that I would venture to guess that in the oil industry, it's not this way. I would venture to guess, right, that not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can walk up to an oil rig and say, yeah, I know how to do this. It's a piece of cake. I'll just start doing it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, but that's a big money maker for them, right? Land pipe and all that good stuff. I mean, what other and I would assume agriculture is a big thing in the state. I don't know what else. What does Oklahoma do other than
I mean, there's a lot of ranches out here, so you got a lot of cow farms out here that I've seen, and I would say that of course, electrical is going to be more highly regulated for that stuff, inside electrical in this state. So they're going to have an actual apprenticeship program, of course, because they're mainly union. I'm sure there's non-union shops out there and companies out there that are working that way as well, but I'm sure they still have to go through kind of the same process to get their licensing.
I mean, so that you could see the need, but there's no reason to create something that no one's ever going to use. You kind of see what I'm leaning towards. Like if I make a widget and I want to sell a widget, but the widgets are available everywhere, then no one's going to buy my widget. They can just get them from anywhere. And I think that's the same thing we're dealing with there. It was like, you could be an outstanding electrician. You can be the best fire alarm programmer you are, and your abilities might carry you far, but trunk slimers can show up and do it too. I'll take a line from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Washing machines work hard. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of an interesting dilemma to be there and to see you, because I know your skill sets, and to see, that it's like, I mean, and you're making good money, I would assume. I mean,
yeah, I would say for this state, yes, I would be making good money. It's significantly less down here than it is up there for wages, because I mean, the licensing is very easy to get in comparison to the state of Oregon or Washington. Right. And also cost of living out here is far less in average than it is in Oregon, because property out here is less expensive.
So what does a house cost you in Oklahoma versus?
So in Oklahoma, an average house is $280.
Yeah. See, so the whole cost of living
so inexpensive compared to Oregon.
It's so inexpensive, yeah. That's not possible.
That's just shy of 2,000 square foot.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really inexpensive out here compared to Oregon.
So you could almost say that some of the detrimental effects of implementing all these rules and regulations is that the economy, it sort of, one thing sort of drives up another. If you make it more expensive to do stuff, then someone's got to pay that bill. And so it just sort of ratchets itself up. So I could see the opposite argument for everybody who's going to write in and go, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I've lived in like Florida and Louisiana and California and Oregon, right? and I've been around the globe. So I've seen economies that don't have anything and people live in cardboard shacks and paper bags. And I've also been in, economies that feed people well and make sure everybody has food. So, you know what I'm saying? So I get it. But to me, it's just kind of an interesting dilemma, because here's a guy with your skill sets and all your knowledge, and you're certainly not pigeonholed, but you could definitely see. What I'm hoping is that they're able to start to implement at least some ground rules to help, get an education system going, because that in itself is a business, and it's a business model that works, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think, and I don't know if anybody's even tried, but if somebody was to, present it to the state government of, hey, we want to make, an apprenticeship program to raise the standards of, what the requirements are for installing, which would also mean we would have to alter, the licensure for the state in these respective fields. And therefore, it could potentially bring in some more money to the state for this.
Yeah.
And also would, affect the economy in mostly a good way. Some ways it would be negatively affected, because there's always a little bit of bad with some good, depending on the perspective. Right.
But I, you kind of see what I mean, and I don't expect you to run down to the state legislator and jump up and down and say, hey, we need to change this, because you only been there, what, a year and a half? How long have you been there now?
1 year.
Oh, God.
1 year is the end of September.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so just over a year. You're basically 11 months or 13 months. I can do math. So, it might behoove you to start looking at that to see if there's any lobbyists that are lobbying for changes, or to see who the big players are in there, if that's if you want to go back into the teaching world, because you had some skill sets there that I'd hate to see you lose.
I agree. I miss the teaching so much.
Yeah, and you were able to construct a course and write the material for it. So it's not like you just pulled it off the shelf and ad-lib like I do a lot. You just were able to piece it together yourself.
Well, I mean, I utilized a book to create a foundation, and then of course I filled in the gaps and left out some of the stuff that I think is a little bit less of like, you must know this, right, and more of we'll discuss it. And we'll go into, how the systems, work specifically, and how we make them work, and all the different situations of, the system can come across this and this. But, I feel like my course, there's a lot to cram into it, in a sense, because two different systems plus control relays, and I also did a little bit of IP networking and integrated systems. That's a lot of information in 12 weeks.
It is. But it's not, but obviously it was important, you know what I'm saying? So to me, it would be nice to see it would be nice to see Oklahoma at least recognize that they may have a problem. And you've sent me enough pictures on the stuff that you run into. I think you probably sent me a dozen pictures, probably one a month, right?
At least.
You're not going to believe this. And they're pretty horrific. I mean, they should be. To me, it would be a multi. And I'm not here to fix Oklahoma's problems. I'm just saying, Oklahoma doesn't have any problems if you ask them. But I'm just saying that if the fire marshals came at it from one angle, the union came at it from an angle, IEC and all the independent electrical people who are non-union come at it at an angle, and the users of the end users of the product say, yeah, we really want a higher standard. I mean, you said, does Oklahoma City have a different standard than the rest of the state?
Yeah, it's kind of like, the city of Portland, right? Where the city of Portland has a different way of approaching fire systems than a lot of the other surrounding non-metro counties do, right? So they're following a different 72, they're following a different NEC, and they also Oklahoma does have their own code book.
Okay.
It's very small, but compared to Oregon having, the 3 statutes that are, required to know and you get tested on, they have a small one, and there's in the test for the fire alarm system, it's mainly out of the 72.
Okay.
It's mainly system based, so it's not necessarily electrical code based. There are electrical code questions on the test, and there's a few Oklahoma code questions on the test, and then of course OSHA. So you've got all of those things that you mix in, and if I remember correctly, it was a 72 or 75 question test.
Yeah.
And they gave you 2 hours to do it.
Right. Open book?
So, yeah, it's open book.
I mean, so you got your own code books. I mean.
Yeah, I have my own code books. I was told that I didn't need to bring them when I went to go take the test at the facility of that they would provide them. So I was like, oh, sweet, I don't have to throw this in the truck. And then I get there, and the only thing I brought was the Oklahoma code book, and there was no code books.
Oh, no. Seriously?
So I took the test without code books.
And you passed?
Yeah.
Big timer. Look at you. See?
Yep.
So you came there with all this knowledge. You're like, hold on, I got a whole backpack full of knowledge on how to do this. I'll wing it. Nice. Look at you.
I did. I did. I winged it, and I passed. So.
Huh. So I could definitely see where that would be advantageous, and you don't see me running down to Salem here to try to change the laws, because in this state there's enough people, they pay people to do that. It's definitely not me, but I could definitely see, if I was stuck in Oklahoma and I had to, and I was bouncing into stuff like this, I could consider doing that and at least figuring out what the path was. But I could also just go, hell with it. I mean, this is what it is, and it is what it is. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna put food on my table and go hunt deer or something or whatever it is. What do you do there in the off time? Like what goes on? It's a big sportsman's place, right?
Yeah, it's a big sportsman's place.
Don't shoot cows. They get really upset about that. I do know that shooting a cow, even though they're easy to hit, is not advisable.
I wouldn't advise it either. I wouldn't, even though they're just, down the road.
Right down the road.
Right down the road.
And don't wrangle them either. They can get a little bit upset about that.
Armory.
So what do you do? What does Oklahoma offer that?
Well, Oklahoma offers quite a few things. It's got what they call mountains out here.
Really, there's a mountain
on
there?
the east side of the state. So there's that. They've got a few lakes, but there's more man-made lakes and ponds than anything else. But they do have the science museum for the kids, so we take the kids there every so often. Their zoo is pretty good and undergoing some cool renovations, which is really cool. So and then we just hang out with family because my wife's family is out here.
Right,
so
right. That was the big motivator to move down. I know that.
Yeah, it was one of the big motivators to move down. Wanting a change, and having family alongside made it a lot easier of a decision to make.
Yeah, it's good for your kids and all that. I get that.
Yeah.
So what's in the future for Colton? I mean, are you just going to hang out and do the ADT thing? Are you going to try to change disciplines and go back into intrusion or into access control or CCTV, or do you just take whatever ADT throws at you? What is it? It's not ADT now. You said it was. They changed.
So it's not ADT commercial. It's called Everon.
Everon, right? Rhymes with Chevron.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, what is Everon going to use you in some other capacity, or are they just going to keep you in this niche, or what are you going to do?
Well, so I'm mainly doing fire stuff, but I still do some camera stuff and access control and CC and intrusion. So I do actually a lot of DMP, either
so
DMP
right
fire or DMP.
Right up your alley.
Yeah. So I love DMP and everything. So I'm working on DMP panels majority of the time when it's intrusion or access control, and then. They do have me doing some, Vista Honeywell first alert stuff and everything. So I do that every so often and come across the, the old P1 panels back before that merger happened.
Oh, so they would allow combination security, fire.
Yeah, it's not like the,
Vista.
It's not like the city of Portland where
No.
they ban combo panels.
They sure
So there's
did.
plenty of combo panels that are out here doing fire and intrusion and access control and everything. So
you're doing it
yeah,
all at that point. Yeah.
that's what I dislike about those systems, is that they've got fire on them, because they're not the best to work with. So not to say that they're horrible systems, because
Right.
they're not. They're just not the best fire system, because dedicated fire systems are really good at doing fire.
Right.
Dedicated intrusion systems are really good at doing intrusion. When you put all your eggs in that one basket and make that your niche, you're going to be pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just making them a combination is not the best idea in my opinion, but it was for a good cause. It was making good money, making it easier on the consumer and everything. So I really understand where it all came from and why it was done. But I'm actually trying to move from service at ADT Commercial Everon to install.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to doing that, doing mainly fire for that with other systems attached to it. So it'll be multi-system projects that I'll be working on and everything. So we'll see what the future holds with that. Don't know when that will exactly happen, but I'm hoping to be running jobs on that side of the spectrum
cool.
for install, and having an actual crew. So they'll probably be decent sized jobs, which I'm going to really look forward to, because I love those kinds of jobs.
Yeah, I remember you liked the big ones. So does Everon have a specific brand that they pop in? I mean, they're not using their own panels, so are they beholden to Firelight or Silent Night or Potter, or is it just like Yahtzee, whatever comes
dealer.
out? Oh, so it's only DMP.
Well, they do DMP for the intrusion. Is the main seller that they use. I don't really know all of the systems that this specific branch is installing, because it was an acquisition branch. It used to be Red Hawk.
Oh, okay.
And so it became ADT Commercial on one of those mergers. Yeah, Red Hawk, that small company out in the south.
I've heard about them. So just like, because Gage works for an acquired company that was acquired by ADT's Commercial, so I get that. So it was so because their specialty was a DMP and they were a DMP dealer, then you went them. So they're not going to install just like blank brand of fire only system.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have EST is their dealer.
Oh, so they're also a dealer. Well,
fire system.
I'm surprised. So do they not know that you have a background in EST?
Oh no, they know I have a background in EST, and that I'm EST3 certified. They're trying to figure out how to transfer it over.
Yeah.
But they're also at the end of November, I'm gonna go get my 4 cert.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Well, then that'll change. That's a game changer there.
That is a game changer. I'm really excited to get the 4, because the end of PSI, they're having that 4 in the tech room. I was itching to learn on that one.
I bet.
And see all of the big changes they made, and just be like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. So you're going to go to Arizona for that, or are you going to Florida?
Yeah, go to Arizona for that one.
Nice.
I forget which city it's in again.
Who cares? It's I don't know.
It's awesome. I have a buddy who lives out in Arizona, so I want to go visit with him again.
Yeah, that's when we sent Jason there, he loved it. He loved it. His biggest thing was he called me up one time, just as Jason Wells. He calls me up. He goes, "My God, the program is it's like C++. I learned this as a kid." I'm like, "Oh, good. This will work out well for you."
Nice. Yeah, I like C++. It's really nice.
It's very similar to it. I guess that's what he told me. I've never. I was scheduled to go right before I left and went back to the Hill. So I don't know. My whole world is right now just simplex. Just simplex, and I like kind of just bouncing into one system, because it allows me to become better and better at that. And I've kind of dialed in a lot of the graphics on their system, so we've kind of I'll tell you what happened. We went out to work to do an inspection, and we remote in, and we use an iPad, usually, or iPhone, to remote in and run a VNC, so RVNC. So we can run in, we can see exactly what you see on your computer. It's just like PC Anywhere. So we're running it, and I'm setting up the NAC circuit so I can do the same floor I'm on, because we do floor above and floor below. So I'm just shutting off what I don't need and turning on what I do need, and trying to manipulate the zoom on the TSW, which is the computer, the head end, and on my iPad, and be able to do this in a timely fashion because you're affecting patients, right? And move was like, well, this is nuts, because you're trying to put your little tiny cursor, which you're driving with your iPad, in this little tiny box. So you zoom the box and you click on that to change its state. And then, okay, we do a pull station, watch the thing go off. I got to change screens now to go to my reset, system reset and silence button, which is not on the same screen. And I'm like, what idiot built this screen? Well, I'm that idiot. So I went back, and after we were done with it, and I saw all of how difficult it was, went back and redid all the ways that you would connect to it, including put big fat buttons on it that you can't miss. Instead of like little tiny buttons, like big buttons. It gives you a big, strike. So we downloaded the system because I did part of it and I did the rest of it this week. So it'll go down next week. And I clicked on it, and like one screen now is like, it fills up the whole iPad. You can't miss it. So we've gone from this little tiny help, you've got to zoom, because you've got to zoom the PC that you're talking to and then zoom your iPad, which is easy. I mean, that's just 2 fingers. But to zoom in on the machine is like, go touch the button, and then, it's because, you're working a mouse with your iPad, and it takes a bit. And the guys who do it all the time are super fast at it. And I just said, now they looked at it and like, oh my God, that's going to make life 10 times easier. And I looked at them both today and I said, you are the customer. Like, you are my customer here. Like, I program for you to make this thing work for you, because it's just a head end, so UL listed head end. So I can do anything you want on the graphics that make it easier for you to make it more efficient. And they were like, oh yeah, okay. So these guys go out and they find any graphical errors. Like if the smoke detector is in the wrong spot on the room, they'll write it down. And then I'll move the graphic to that spot. Yeah, because it's very detailed. They send me exact details. Like, okay, like you have it like in this corner and stuff, but it needs to be like in this corner and stuff, and or the things. And we're able to knock them out now in a super regular phase. Like they tell me about it one week, and the next week the changes, and they're like, oh my God. So, between that and then awesome, real honest to God problems. Like we've got a couple of issues popping up that we're taking care of, and the new construction, and they identified one area where, where there was some stuff lacking, and we were able to modify what we needed to do to get systems up and running, and reduce false alarms, and all kinds of stuff. Like you could just when you're looking at it and you're trying to make it better, because of somebody who engineered something, entirely backwards. It's nice to be able to make those changes. Like I don't really know exactly what school teaches you that when you open up an autoclave and steam comes out, that you should put a sensor directly above the autoclave. Like that's a big head scratcher for me. And that's a good one. We had one where if you short cycled the autoclave at all, which I mean, you put something in there to sterilize it. And then if the machine has some sort of glitch, like power glitch or whatever, it goes, oh, I've got to be restarted. You've got to open and close the door. So in this particular area, you could see the design of all the devices laid out. And they're all in a nice, neat rows, just like you'd expect any layout to be, except one that is directly above that autoclave. So there's 2 near it, and then like out of the, like if you were just drawing, you went, oh, let's put one right above this machine. Why? Like, why would you do that? Why would you add more? Because you know how much each one of those heads cover. It's quite a few square feet. There's no reason to have this one there anyway. It's like someone said, well, this machine is a potential false alarm monster. We should put a head above it.
Yeah.
I was like, so like I think about this happened last year. I think about the 4th time this thing went off. I go to there and I go to see what's going on because I respond. And the supervisor pulls me off the side. He says, every time this machine short cycles, this happens. Every single time. And I'm like, well, okay. And we're very easy. Just turn alarm verification on that one device. That one device. Now it's done. That's solved, fixed. And there's 2 smokes within 12 feet of them. So this is an extra one anyway. I'm certainly not going to take it out because I don't have the authority to do that. But I can change the algorithm to make sure it works a little bit better. Done. Like simple fix. And with the new software, you can I make this one verified. And then we have a rule with the fire marshal that if we have a certain areas, if we have to do that, then we'll have to add one that's not. So if I have one room where I've got a problem for whatever reason, and we make that a verified device, then the rule is on the opposite side of that room, we'll put a non-verified device. And so we'll double the protection in the room, one of each type. And those are the rules the standing rules on how we do it. It's just a stroke of brilliance. It's a stroke of brilliance, man.
That's really nice.
It's really nice. So you, at the end of the day, I look back at the systems and with all the devices we have out there, if I have, 6 troubles, that's nothing. I mean, known issues that are going on. Our biggest issue has been dealing with, supply issues. And apparently the company we worked through had some sort of ransom attack or something. Something went awry, and it affected their ability to move product.
Yep.
And that was not. I don't know all the details because you can't read the news. The news is kind of useless. So I'm I have no idea. And so the tech's yeah, we don't know either. All we know is that all this stuff stopped working one day, and we're like, well, how do you fix that? He goes, we don't know. They're working on it. So it's interesting. It's an interesting time.
Yeah.
What?
It is interesting times.
Yeah. Anyway, well, it sounds like you're doing good. Do you want to say anything to the folks here that might get them to move to Oklahoma to be next to you, or should they all stay in Oregon and avoid the cows?
Property's cheap out here. You can buy a house for less than you can in Oregon.
Property's
probably
cheap.
Buy 2 houses.
You could buy 2 houses for one that you would get in Oregon, right? And it's obvious you have your firelight panel going in, so you're building a little school in your garage, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Gonna collect some more devices.
And you have seen no tornadoes, so that's a myth.
I have not seen any tornadoes yet. Yeah.
Well, and you don't live in an area you don't live in Ardmore or someplace south of Oklahoma City where.
No, I know, and we've had the sirens go off once.
Really? Okay.
For shelter in place because there was a touchdown, and I forget what I don't know exactly what their mile radius rule is for their sirens. Mm-hmm. But they only go off when there is touchdown.
Oh wow, yeah.
So there was a touchdown. It was what they consider close to us. Right. So it was we were within, the hazard area. And so the siren went off and everything. And it was, what was it? It's almost midnight when this went off. So luckily the kids were just fantastic. They didn't get freaked out or anything. We just brought them because we don't have an actual storm shelter in this house right now. So we just put them brought them into the bathroom, which is the closest to the center of the house with no windows. And they went right back to sleep.
Nice.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So are you going to look at one of those cool shelters you put in your garage have you seen those yet?
Well, which ones? There's the in-ground ones?
Yeah, no. There's ones above ground that go in your garage that the door goes in so that, because if you have to push the door out and debris goes up, you can't get out. They go in, and the guy who advertises it runs like a Chrysler into one. You've never seen this? Oh my God! No. You've got to see this. It's a white. I mean, it could be any color, but it's a basic room that's put into the foundation of your home so that it doesn't go anywhere. And then the demonstration is this is how strong this thing is, and they just crash a car into it, flat out. I mean, it's not just bumping into it, dude. It's cruising. And you see this car, and then the people inside open up the door and hey, we're okay and stuff. I'm like, dude, if a Chrysler can hit it, I want one. So yeah, Yeah, and he talked about how I learned about it because I've been to Oklahoma, I've been to Ardmore and Oklahoma City and stuff, but he goes, oh yeah, this is all the evolution of this particular product, and he goes, the doors go in, and he describes why, because if you have a door that goes out and your house falls on top of it, you can't get the door out, and he showed the interior. It was really, really cool, man. So I thought for sure you'd already have one by now.
Nope, not yet. I mean, we haven't bought a house out here. We're renting for now.
Oh, okay, I get it. But
so we're renting until we can, buy a house.
Awesome.
So,
well, will you come back on it when you get? I mean, as you move, especially if you get your Ford certification and you start doing EST full time, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't be doing it like 100% of the time, but yeah, I'll be doing EST4, EST3 stuff, of course, majority of the time.
Nice.
But everything else on top of that, because DMP.
Yeah. Which I know, like I said, and I have no problem with that because I know you're a DMP fan. So, and I saw you do some pretty amazing things with the product. So.
Yeah,
I fixed a lot of problems out here for us when we had them.
Yeah, PSI.
Yeah. It's like, remember that problem? Yeah, it took care of that. So, that's a good product.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's a great product. And, I have, since I've got that dealer admin experience, I don't have that out here. I don't have access to that out here.
Oh, no way.
With ADT commercial. Yeah, I've asked for it, and they're like, oh, I don't know if you can have that.
Oh, my God. Did you need that? That was.
I've already been calling our tech support and going, hey, we've got issues with this. This is how we're going to fix it.
Oh, yeah.
And just start going through it. And they're just like, how do you know this?
Oh,
because I used to do it.
Dude, I feel like if I was in your shoes, I would just feel like I was just teaching everywhere I went, I'd be going, okay, well, this is how a toaster works. I know that's not the case, but.
Right. Yeah, it's not the case, but there's instances where I'm just like, okay, I've seen this issue before. This is what needs to happen, and this is where it's located in dealer admin.
There's an easy way to fix these problems back in the 80s where I come from, but no, I get it. All right, my man. Well, definitely come back on, will you?
I will, yes.
Awesome. Thanks for meeting with me today.
It was fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Half Watt Podcast. We always want to hear from you, and we encourage you to email us at halfwattpod@gmail.com with questions or even your own stories. Funny, crazy, or praiseworthy, we want to hear it all. You can follow us on Instagram at halfwattpod to stay up to date on our feed. And be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And share us with a friend, the best way to help us grow. The Half Watt Podcast is a production of Now Hear This Studios.